So I want you to picture a spiritual master for a second. Um, let's say it's like a monk, right? Sitting at the very peak of some isolated mountain. If you just close your eyes and conjure up that image right now, what exactly are you seeing?
Oh, I mean, I know exactly what you're saying.
You're probably picturing like absolute pin drop silence, right?
Yeah.
A perfectly straight spine, eyes closed, face carved like a stone statue. And above all else, you are picturing someone who is incredibly, profoundly serious.
Right. Yeah, it's an almost unconscious reflex for most of us. We have this really deep-seated kind of cross-cultural association between spiritual growth and just, well, absolute solemnity.
Yeah.
We tend to assume that the more spiritually advanced you are, the more austere and rigid you're supposed to be.
Exactly. Like it's supposed to look like this grueling, humorless hard work. But what if we've actually had that backwards this entire time?
I mean, that's the big question.
Right. So welcome to today's deep dive. Normally, we take a massive stack of sources, articles, research papers, your own notes, and we distill them down to the most critical insights. But today, we are zooming in on a single, really fascinating document you shared with us.
Yeah, it's called The Spiritual Alchemy of Laughter and Lightness.
Yes. And our mission today is to figure out why this text completely shatters that statue-like image of the monk on the mountain. Because, this source argues that laughter and a profound sense of humor aren't just like pleasant personality traits.
Right, they're not just bonuses.
No,
Okay.
they are fundamental, non-negotiable prerequisites for spiritual ascension.
Which is wild, right? The premise really flips the conventional wisdom on its head. The text doesn't just treat laughter as a temporary mood booster or some psychological trick. It frames it as an actual mechanical tool for spiritual evolution.
A mechanical tool. I love that phrasing.
Yeah, so today we're going to decode the physics and the psychology of how laughter physically and spiritually lightens us. We'll explore how it literally shifts us away from our primitive defensive tendencies and actually prepares the mental ground so that true meditation is even possible.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand how a simple laugh acts as a high-level spiritual tool, we first have to understand what the author believes laughter actually is, and where it comes from. The text starts with this really bold philosophical claim that laughter is a uniquely human privilege.
Yeah, the author points out a fascinating biological distinction here. I mean, you might see a dog panting in a way that looks like a joyful smile.
Oh, yeah, my dog definitely smiles.
Right, or chimpanzees making play faces when they wrestle. But animals don't truly laugh in the complex existential way humans do.
Because they don't get the joke.
Exactly. They don't process irony or shared absurdity. The privilege of true laughter is entirely reserved for humanity. And the text actually takes this a step further into the theological realm. Well, it operates on the premise that humans were created in God's image. Therefore, the logical assumption the author makes is that God must laugh too.
Wow. Okay, that single idea immediately recontextualizes everything for me.
Powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, because if the creator of the universe laughs, then laughter isn't a distraction from the divine. It's innately spiritual. It is literally a divine characteristic expressing itself through us.
Spot on.
But, and here's where the text draws a really hard line, which I found so interesting. It has a strict definition of what qualifies as true humor. It's not just like anything that makes you chuckle.
No, not at all. According to this source, true humor is defined incredibly simply. It is shared happiness.
Shared happiness.
Right. It's an overflow of internal joy that you naturally want to radiate to others. And the most critical boundary the author draws is this. You cannot enjoy a joke at the cost of another person.
Right.
Taunting, ridiculing, mocking, none of that qualifies as humor in this specific spiritual framework.
Okay, so I want to push back on this quite a bit, actually, especially looking at it through the lens of our modern world.
Sure, go for it.
If you look at popular entertainment, or even just how we interact in the workplace, so much of what we culturally consume as comedy is heavily based on roasting people.
Oh, absolutely.
It's sarcasm, it's witty takedowns on social media, or self-deprecating humor where we mock our own misery, Sarcasm is often like our primary coping mechanism for the stress of modern life.
It's the default setting for a lot of people.
So are we saying that all this comedy we consume and use to blow off steam is actually spiritually damaging?
Well, the text forces us to look at the underlying energy of the joke rather than just the punchline.
Okay.
Think about the mechanics behind a roast or a sarcastic takedown.
Yeah.
It inherently requires an elevation of the self by stepping on someone else.
Right.
Or a highlighting of someone's flaws so you can feel superior.
Yeah, I guess it does create a dynamic of winners and losers.
It creates a victim, even if it's disguised as friendly banter. The argument here is that this type of behavior ties us down to our baser, more primitive tendencies. It's rooted in ego, competition, and insecurity. It's not actual joy.
Oh, wow. So even if everyone in the room is laughing at the roast, it's a heavy, ego-driven laugh. It's not lightening anyone's spiritual load.
Precisely. True humor must radiate inner happiness so that both people enjoy it equally, without any underlying sting. And the text explicitly mentions the contagion effect to illustrate this.
The contagion effect.
Yeah, it notes that if you spend time with a miserable, cynical person, they will drag you down into their misery.
Oh, we all know someone like that.
Right. But if you go to a truly happy person, someone operating with this victimless spiritual humor, they relax you in 2 minutes. They automatically make you feel safe and happy just by being in their radius.
It's like the acid test of a room's energy. Does the joke relax the room? Does it bring everyone into a shared state of warmth?
Yes, exactly.
And if it leaves someone feeling alienated or if it relies on cruelty, it's not the divine joke. It's just the human ego wearing a comedy mask.
That's a great way to put it. And that distinction is the bridge to the next major concept in the text.
Which is?
You can't achieve the relaxation required for spiritual growth if your humor is built on defensive, ego-driven tactics. True humor is what actually prepares the mind and body for the intense focus of meditation.
Okay, let's follow that bridge because this is where the practical application gets super fascinating to me. We've established that true humor is this shared, victimless joy. The text notes that cultivating this specific type of positivity actively heals the raw spots in our personality. What does that actually mean in a day-to-day context?
Well, consider what happens when you take yourself and your life entirely too seriously.
Yeah.
You essentially walk around constantly guarding your ego.
Right.
If you make a mistake at work, spill coffee on your shirt, or someone points out a flaw, it hits a raw spot, you instantly get defensive, anxious, or angry. Your physical and mental energy
And completely tense up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a genuine sense of humor allows you to laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
It gives you the psychological distance to look at your own clumsiness or your own messiness with compassion rather than harsh, immediate judgment.
The text says this leads to total self-acceptance. But I have to ask, and I'm sure you listening might be wondering the exact same thing, why are we so absolutely terrified of exposing those raw spots in the first place?
That's a great question.
Like, why is it so incredibly hard to just laugh at our own messiness without feeling a deep sense of shame?
Well, it really comes down to human biology and social conditioning. We are biologically wired for self-preservation. And historically, exposing a flaw or a weakness felt like a literal threat to our social standing.
Which equated to survival back in the day.
Right. So we build these complex, rigid personalities as armor to protect those raw spots.
Makes sense.
The problem is, carrying around heavy armor all day is exhausting. It makes us perpetually tense. And the author makes a crucial point here. Physical relaxation and emotional balance are absolute, non-negotiable requirements for meditation.
Right, because you cannot enter a deep, expansive meditative state if you're unconsciously clenching your jaw to protect your ego.
You just can't.
I always struggled with the idea of surrender or relaxation in meditation because to my modern brain, surrender sounds like giving up. It sounds passive, you know?
A lot of people feel that way.
But the author uses an anecdote about the Buddha here that completely changes the framing from giving up to finding balance.
Ah, yes. The story of his disciple, Shrona. It's a perfect illustration of this.
He really is.
The Buddha was masterful at using concrete analogies from everyday life so his students could grasp massive, abstract spiritual concepts.
Huh.
So Shrona had been a highly skilled musician before becoming a monk. Specifically, he was an expert at tuning a complex stringed instrument called the veena.
I love this part. Shrona was apparently struggling because he was trying way too hard.
He was.
He was being too ascetic, too rigid, too serious about his meditation. So the Buddha uses Shrona's own background against him in a good way. He asks Shrona, what happens if the strings of the veena are completely loose?
And Shrona, being the musician, answers predictably. He says, it won't play, it won't produce a sound.
Right.
Then the Buddha asks the inverse, what happens if the strings are pulled far too tight? And Shrona replies that they will snap.
It's a brilliant way to conceptualize what we do to ourselves.
It really is.
If we think about trying to meditate, trying to reach some level of enlightenment, when we take ourselves intensely seriously, it's exactly like trying to play a beautiful, delicate symphony on a guitar where the strings are wound so tight the wood is literally creaking.
Yes.
The moment life plucks a string, it snaps. We just vibrate with anxiety and rigidity. True humor in this context is the act of turning the tuning peg just slightly to release the tension.
That's beautifully put.
You aren't letting the string go slack and giving up, you're just loosening it so it can actually resonate.
And that resonance is the exact frequency where the real work of meditation begins. Humor gives us that relaxed balance. It creates the slack we need to sit down, close our eyes, and actually focus on the spiritual work rather than just silently fighting our own internal defenses.
Okay, so let's say we've done the tuning. We have cultivated this shared joy. We are relaxed. Our ego's heavy armor is finally resting on the floor, and we sit down to meditate. What is actually happening during that meditation to create lasting bliss?
That's the core of it, right?
Yeah, because the text points out another massive misconception here. People assume meditation leads to profound seriousness, but the author insists it actually leads to the deepest form of happiness.
And this is where we transition into the actual mechanics of the spiritual journey, as described by the author. It's the shift from being world-oriented to being God-oriented. The source outlines the traditional path: embracing the spiritual life, seeking guidance from a guru, and committing to consistent practice. But the core physical and mental mechanism described is the withdrawal of consciousness from what the author calls the 9 portals of the body.
Let's break down those 9 portals. For anyone listening who isn't familiar with the term, this traditionally refers to the physical gateways where our senses interact with the outside world, right?
Yes, exactly.
So it's the 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, the mouth, and the 2 organs of generation and elimination.
Right, it's essentially the entire apparatus we use to consume the physical world.
And the text describes the sensory pleasures that flow through these portals as insipid, which feels like a really strong, almost dismissive word. Like it literally means lacking flavor, dull, or uninteresting.
It does.
Yeah.
And the author uses that word to create a deliberate, sharp contrast. The argument is that as long as our attention is constantly flowing outward through these 9 portals, we are doomed to chase temporary, fleeting physical thrills. A phenomenal meal, a beautiful sunset, the comfort of a soft chair.
But those are great things.
They are. They aren't inherently evil, but they are insipid when compared to the profound, lasting bliss of the inner self. The meditative practice is designed to train the mind to pull that flowing attention backward, away from the senses, and concentrate it at what the text calls the eye center.
Okay, I have to be the proxy for you, listener, right now, because this is where the paradox gets really deep and counterintuitive for me.
How so?
If I want to experience joy in my life, my immediate instinct is to go out into the physical world and find it.
Sure.
I want to eat the delicious cake. I want to watch the beautiful sunset. I want to listen to my favorite music. How does pulling away from the physical world, deliberately cutting off the senses, somehow create more joy?
It entirely defies our modern conditioning, doesn't it?
Can we-
But consider the external world for a moment. It is a constant, unrelenting barrage of static. It's loud, it's chaotic, and it demands constant reaction from you. The joy you experience through your physical senses is completely dependent on external conditions remaining perfect.
The cake has to be fresh.
Exactly. The sunset can't be cloudy, but the inner joy the text describes, what it vividly calls the ambrosia of real joy, is the experience of internal light and sound, and that is completely independent of outside conditions.
Wow.
It is a constant, infinite source of bliss, but it is incredibly subtle. You can't notice it if you're distracted by the physical world.
Okay. Let me pitch an analogy here. It's like you are standing in the middle of a massive, crowded, incredibly noisy train station.
Okay, I'm with you.
People are yelling, announcements are blaring overhead, trains are screeching on the tracks. That's our normal sensory-driven life.
Exactly. And in the context of this teaching, withdrawing your attention from those 9 portals is like putting on a pair of the world's most advanced noise-canceling headphones.
Right. So it's not that you are destroying the train station or hating the outside world. You are just blocking the overwhelming static.
Yes.
And once the noise is finally gone, you suddenly realize there is this beautiful, complex, subtle piece of music playing inside your own mind that you couldn't hear over all the yelling.
That captures the mechanism perfectly. You are intentionally quieting the external demands so you can finally perceive the internal reality. By holding your attention at that eye center, you transcend the need for those temporary sensual pleasures. You taste that ambrosia.
That's incredible.
And the beauty of this process is that once you actually experience that level of profound, unconditional happiness, it doesn't just change your meditation. It radically alters how you view the loud train station of the real world when you open your eyes again.
Which brings us to the ultimate so what of this entire philosophy. We've laughed, we've relaxed the ego, we've put on the noise-canceling headphones, and we've found the inner joy. But we still have to live in the world.
We do.
How does this lightness change our perspective on daily life? The text says that once we taste this inner ambrosia, we finally realize that the material world is illusory, perishable, and transitory.
This is the critical paradigm shift the author is driving toward. When you connect with something eternal and absolute inside yourself, the external world reveals its true, temporary nature.
Like, none of it actually lasts.
Exactly. Every massive success, every crushing failure, every argument with a coworker, every traffic jam, it's all passing. The text states that everything we go through is dictated by our karmas and by divine will.
Okay, let's clarify how the text is using the word karma here, because it can be a really loaded term.
It definitely can be.
It's not talking about a cosmic punishment system where, like, you get a flat tire because you were rude to a waiter, right?
Right, no. Within the specific context of this source, karma is essentially the law of cause and effect, setting a temporary play of events into motion. It is the curriculum of your life, designed for your ultimate spiritual benefit.
The curriculum of your life.
Yeah, the events will happen as they are meant to happen. Your only real agency is in how you react to them.
So the logical conclusion the author draws is, why worry? Why spend your precious energy agonizing over forms and events that are going to vanish anyway?
Exactly.
Why resist the current when the river is regulated by divine will?
And this is where the author introduces a beautiful, elegant synthesis of science and spirituality. The text explicitly states, it is a scientific fact that light things rise easily and resistance holds them back.
Yes, the physics of the soul. I want to make sure you listening really picture this mechanism because it's the core metaphor of the entire document. Let's say our spiritual journey is a hot air balloon ride.
Right.
Our ultimate goal is to rise, to ascend, to naturally merge with that radiant reality the text talks about. But right now, we are stuck on the ground because our basket is heavily loaded down with sandbags.
And if we apply the mechanics of this teaching, those sandbags are your worldly attachments and your resistance to life. They are your worries about the future. Your anxieties, the grudges you absolutely refuse to let go of. Every time you get furiously angry because someone cut you off in traffic, you are tying another heavy sandbag to your balloon.
It's just more weight.
Every time you take your ego too seriously and get deeply offended, that's a sandbag. You're creating immense spiritual resistance.
And resistance holds you back. The text argues that the ultimate purpose of laughter and a sense of humor isn't just to make you a pleasant person to be around at dinner parties. Laughter is the exact mechanism of throwing those sandbags overboard.
Yes.
When you encounter a highly stressful situation and instead of resisting it, complaining about it, or raging against it, you actively choose to laugh it off. You are physically and spiritually lightening your load.
You are untying the knot. You drop the sandbag of worry, and naturally, effortlessly, the balloon rises a little higher. You don't have to force the balloon up into the sky. You just have to stop weighing it down.
Stop weighing it down.
Let us lighten ourselves, the text says, so we may ascend naturally beyond the domain of the material. It completely changes the concept of spiritual effort. It's not about fighting gravity. It's about surrendering the weight.
It is a profound reframing of what surrender actually means. Surrender here isn't a somber, defeated act of giving up. It is a joyful, laughing release of the illusion of control.
That's it, exactly.
When you truly trust that everything is ultimately handled by divine will and that all your daily frustrations are just passing karmas, laughter becomes the most rational, spiritually mature response to the chaos of life.
It is an incredibly cohesive and uplifting philosophy. It takes something as ordinary as every day as a good laugh and elevates it into a profound tool for liberation. It tells us that joy is not the distant reward for decades of grueling spiritual work. It is the very engine that drives the ascension.
Which brings us all the way back to that monk on the mountaintop we pictured at the very beginning of our deep dive. The stone-faced, ultra-serious ascetic.
The statue.
Right. Maybe he's not frowning in deep concentration after all. Maybe if we could zoom in close enough past the silence and the stillness, we'd see the faint, undeniable crinkle of a smile.
I love that image.
So let's recap the journey we just took together. We started by learning that laughter isn't an accident of biology. It's a uniquely human, divine trait.
Right?
We learned that true humor isn't sarcastic or mean-spirited. It is the generous sharing of pure joy without a victim. We discovered that this specific lightness is what heals our raw spots and relaxes our tight strings, creating the balance required to actually sit still and meditate.
The tuning of the vina.
Exactly. And finally, by putting on the noise-canceling headphones and withdrawing our senses from the chaotic world, we connect with an inner joy that allows us to drop the heavy sandbags of worldly worry, laughing them off so our consciousness can naturally rise.
It's been a truly eye-opening exploration, rethinking laughter as a spiritual tool rather than just an emotion. It changes everything.
It really does. So, we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over today, building on everything we've unpacked. The text suggests that everything in our lives is regulated by divine will, and our only real job is to stop resisting, lighten up, and laugh things away.
Right.
So think about the single biggest source of stress in your life right now, the thing you are gripping the tightest, the heaviest sandbag in your basket.
We all have one.
We definitely do. Are you treating a temporary passing event as a permanent, catastrophic emergency? What would happen if, just for today, you decided to look at that exact stressor and simply laugh?
A great question to sit with.
Until next time, keep digging deep.